The legendary car company Porsche have had a phenomenal 2024 season in both the World Endurance Championship and in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Series. The German marque has arguably had their best season in both championships, and that's saying a lot considering how successful they are in endurance racing competition. Ultimately, Porsche's performance was nothing short of extraordinary, which includes them taking titles in both prototype and GT racing. So in this video, I'll analyze the consistent season that Porsche had during the 2024 year of competition in both the WEC and IMSA. The iconic German car company headed into 2024 with 9 Porsche 963s racing full-time, with 4 of the chassis being factory cars from Porsche Penske Motorsports, and the others being customer cars from Hertz Team Jota, JDC Miller Motorsports, and finally Proton Competition. Over on the GT side of things, the German brand will be represented by 5 Porsche 911 GT3Rs racing full-time across the 2 series, from teams like Manthey Pure Racing and EMA in the WEC, and AO Racing, MDK Motorsports, and Wright Motorsports in IMSA. Porsche's brilliant season started off at the first round of the IMSA season of the Rolex 24 at Daytona in January, and this 24-hour endurance race was arguably the highlight of the year for the German brand. Things started off good, with Sebastian Priaulx putting AO Racing's Rexy Porsche on pole in GTD Pro, and the factory Porsches in GTP showed strong pace in qualifying to challenge Cadillac in the race. During the event itself, Porsche Penske Motorsport battled the 2 Cadillac V-Series R entries from Action Express Racing and Chip Ganassi Racing through all conditions, and throughout the entire race, the 963s remained consistently reliable and competitive, and in fact, Porsche was the only brand in GTP to not hit any reliability issues. Throughout the race, the number 7 Porsche Penske and the number 31 Cadillac were the main challengers for the win, and they battled hard for it. And thankfully, in that nail-biting final hour, Felipe Nasr successfully held off Tom Blomqvist's Cadillac to take the win of the Rolex 24 at Daytona, in what would be the start of a memorable season for the brand. Despite Risi Competizione's Ferrari beating the Rexy Porsche to the win in GTD Pro, there were a lot of celebrations in GTP as the number 7 Porsche crew of Felipe Nasr, Matt Campbell, Dane Cameron, and Joseph Newgarden took Porsche's 19th overall win at Daytona, and Roger Penske's first win since 1969 at this event. So obviously the German manufacturer had a good start to the IMSA season, but the question now was, could they keep up this consistent performance in the WEC? And well, the answer was yes. Heading over into the season opener at Qatar, this was arguably Porsche's most competitive race in the WEC in 2024. Like at Daytona, things started off well with Matt Campbell qualifying on pole position in the number 5 Porsche. And in the race, despite early competition from the number 50 Ferrari and the number 93 Peugeot, the 963s were absolutely flying, and the number 6 Porsche took back the lead on lap 54 from Nico Müller's Peugeot, and the number 6 Porsche led till the checkered flag, and therefore took Porsche Penske Motorsport's first win in the WEC hypercar class. And because of the devastating misfortunes for the number 93 Peugeot, Porsche cars were able to achieve all 3 overall podium spots in hypercar. And over in LMGT3, victory was also obtained by Porsche, as the number 93 Manthey Pure Racing car took the first ever GT3 victory in the WEC. Back over in IMSA, Porsche cars continued to place on the podium in GTP. Following Daytona, the number 7 Porsche finished 3rd for the next 3 consecutive events, and the customer number 5 Mustang sampling car from Proton Competition also showed at Sebring that it could get in the mix as well, because during that event, Julian Andlauer stormed through the pack and could have won if it wasn't for the contact made at turn 3 with the Acura. For the 4th round at Laguna Seca, Porsche got their next win in GTP, this time courtesy of the number 6 car, with Mathieu Jaminet and Nick Tandy behind the wheel. And even though they benefited from Jack Aitken's off-track moment at turn 4, Porsche Penske did end up on the top step of the podium. And Porsche were also on top in GTD Pro, because AO Racing's Rexy car won for the very first time during the Motul Corse de Monterey. And a race later at Detroit, Porsche would claim yet another overall podium, just losing out to the number 10 Acura from Wayne Taylor Racing. But in the GTD Pro class, Rexy got a second gold tooth, as the number 77 Porsche won again in IMSA competition, beating the likes of the number 14 Vasser Sullivan Lexus and the number 23 Heart of Racing Aston Martin to claim the class victory. Back in the World Endurance Championship, as the season progressed, just like in IMSA, Porsche continued to secure podiums and consistent results. Despite losing out on the win at Imola to Toyota, Porsche Penske entries did achieve second and third respectively, and the Porsche 963s did return to winning ways at the following round at Spa-Francorchamps. After benefiting from pitting just before the red flags were called out due to Earl Bamber's massive crash in the number 2 Cadillac, Hertz Team Jota's number 12 Porsche and the number 6 Porsche were able to gap the field and bring home a Porsche 1-2, with Hertz Team Jota securing their first and so far only overall win in the World Endurance Championship. Porsche also had a successful run in LMGT3. Even though McLaren and Lamborghini showed strong pace with their GT cars to win at Spa, the two Porsches benefited from a late pit stop by the number 60 Iron Lynx Hurricane, which promoted the number 91 Manthey EMA car to first, and the Qatar-winning number 92 car into second. This therefore gave Porsche P1 and P2 in both classes of the WEC at Spa. And combined with the results that same weekend over at Laguna Seca, Porsche truly dominated across all races. For the next race of the iconic 24 Hours of Le Mans, compared to last year, Porsche Penske showed very strong pace to challenge for the overall win. With the addition of the number 4 Porsche Penske, which would be piloted by IMSA racers Felipe Nasr, Nick Tandy, and Mathieu Jaminet, Porsche would bring 6 cars to Le Mans to try and achieve victory number 20 at La Sarthe. The journey for that win started off strong for the German marque, as Kevin Estre surprisingly stole pole position from Cadillac with the number 6 Porsche, and led the field away once green flag racing got underway. However, even though the factory Porsche 963s were competitive during the race, Porsche were not able to convert their qualifying results into the overall win, with the number 6 Porsche losing out on the podium by just over 1 second, which is such a close margin, considering that this race lasts 24 hours in length. Nevertheless though, Le Mans, along with the American venue at COTA, would in fact be the only events across both the WEC and IMSA in 2024 where Porsche would not be on the overall podium, which is quite an impressive stat, considering that the 963 only started racing the year prior in 2023. However, despite Porsche losing out on the overall podium, they would taste success at Le Mans, as in LMGT3, the number 91 Manthey EMA car would repeat the success from Spa, and secure the first GT3 win in the history of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. But for the next race in Sao Paulo, Porsche Penske would return to the podium, as the number 6 and number 5 cars would finish second and third again. And over in the GT class, the number 92 Manthey Pure Racing 911 took Porsche back to the top step of the LMGT3 podium for the third race in a row. A week after Le Mans in IMSA, Porsche returned to winning ways in prototype racing, and got revenge at Watkins Glen from the win being taken away from the number 6 crew in 2023. But this time, instead of the number 6 car being on top of the podium, victory would be attained by the number 7 Porsche crew of Felipe Nasr and Dane Cameron, as they returned to winning ways for the first time since Daytona. Porsche Penske would continue their winning ways at the next IMSA event with GTP cars at Road America, where the number 6 Porsche would take victory number 2 this year, with the number 7 Porsche completing a 1-2 for the German manufacturer in IMSA. The results also moved the number 6 Porsche Penske into second in the championship, making it a Porsche 1-2 in the standings, and the entry would move ahead of the 01 Chip Ganassi Cadillac. The Road Atlanta event also saw one of the most competitive performances from a customer 963 in IMSA, as the number 5 Mustang sampling Porsche qualified 4th, with Jimmy Bruni behind the wheel. Then it took the overall lead of this race. However, though, the Proton competition entry would drop towards the mid-pack of GTP, following different strategies benefiting other cars rather than the number 5 Porsche. For the final rounds of both the WEC and IMSA, things went very well for Porsche as a brand. Over in IMSA at Indianapolis, BMW won overall with a fantastic 1-2, and Porsche did finish on the overall podium, albeit with a customer car. Despite the number 6 Porsche finishing 3rd in the race, the car would be penalized for wiring modifications made outside of the car's homologation. And even though the number 7 Porsche had an amazing start to this race where Felipe Nasr climbed all the way up to the front, the car would have a power steering failure, which dropped the car to the back. And both of these circumstances ultimately caused Porsche Penske to have a difficult day at the Brickyard. Nevertheless, Porsche's best finishing result came from the privateer number 85 JDC Miller entered Porsche 963, which was promoted to the podium following the penalty for the number 6 car. When it comes to Porsche's success at Indy though, the focus was mainly around the number 77 AO racing car, as it was definitely Rexy's best ever performance in IMSA competition thus far. The fan favorite Dinosaur Porsche qualified on pole with Lauren Heinrich behind the wheel, but the car was disqualified due to a ride height infringement, which made the entry start stone dead last for the race. Although the team and drivers put in a champion's performance with the number 77 car, as Rexy went from last to first in the GT field and got an incredible win at Indianapolis. And the celebrations would continue for the German marque at the Speedway, as in GTD, Wright Motorsports would pick up their first win with their dark green number 120 Porsche, which solidified a perfect day for Porsche race cars in GT racing. In the final IMSA round at Road Atlanta, Porsche were searching for a clean sweep of titles in GTP as well as in GTD Pro for AO racing. The GTP grid would be extremely competitive across all the entries from the 5 manufacturers, but ultimately Porsche would win all 3 titles in GTP, which included the manufacturers, teams, and drivers championships, with the number 7 Porsche successfully winning the title after a supremely consistent season. Porsche would also end off the day with a very successful result. Despite the 01 Cadillac from Chip Ganassi Racing taking the victory, the Penske entries would finish 2nd and 3rd on the podium. Over in GTD Pro, the title fight was very close compared to GTP because of Rexy's gearbox issues, which dropped the car down the order and put doubt on AO Racing's potential title. However, the championship contending number 23 Aston Martin wasn't able to get past the Risi Ferrari for 2nd, which would have given them the championship. And ultimately, Lauren Heinrich's record-breaking lap in qualifying, which gifted AO Racing pole position, is what allowed the number 77 Porsche to win the 2024 title by just 4 points. And Porsche would also win the GTD Pro Manufacturers title in a close fight with Aston Martin's Heart of Racing entries. Over in the World Endurance Championship, things were closer for the title fight in the prototype class. At the penultimate round in Fuji, even though there was competition from Cadillac and even BMW for the win, the number 6 Porsche crew performed great with excellent strategies and pace, and eventually won Porsche Penske Motorsports' 2nd win of the season. And with the rivaling number 50 Ferrari and number 7 Toyota having difficult races, the number 6 Porsche headed into Bahrain with a somewhat comfortable lead. During the race at Fuji, 2 championships would also be wrapped up, and both were secured by Porsche cars. After a phenomenal season in LMGT3, which included 2 wins, the number 92 Manthey Pure Racing Porsche secured the first ever LMGT3 championship title. and eventually the number 91 Manthey EMA Porsche would solidify second in the championship, equaling out for a dominant result in 2024 in the GT category. Porsche also secured the Hypercar World Cup title for customer teams, because the number 12 Hertz Team Jota Porsche did enough to win the title against the other customer cars. For the final round in Bahrain, all eyes were on the Hypercar Championship fight, as 3 manufacturers had a chance to win the drivers' and manufacturers' titles. The number 6 Porsche had a difficult start to the race after contact being made and dropped towards the back of the Hypercar field. Throughout this race in Bahrain, the number 6 Porsche would actually have a very difficult race, and it would inevitably be the number 5 Porsche that would actually challenge for the podium places rather than the number 6 car. When it came down to the Drivers' Championship though, things would pretty much be decided following the number 7 Toyota's heartbreaking retirement and the issues that befell the number 50 Ferrari, which included a tire puncture. So at the end of the race, the fight really came down to the Manufacturers' Championship battle, which would be a fight between the number 5 Porsche Penske entry and the number 8 Toyota Gazoo racing car. During the final hour, Matt Campbell was leading in the number 5 car, and if he stayed there, Porsche would secure the championship. Alas, Seb Boemi's fresher tires enabled him to blast past the 963 and eventually take the win, which would allow Toyota to secure the manufacturer's title. And it just goes to show that even if a brand was as successful as Porsche was in 2024, you can't win everything in motorsports. And it also proves how competitive the hypercar class really is, as a championship fight was decided within the final 45 minutes of the season. But even though Porsche would lose out on the manufacturer's battle, the number 6 Porsche Penske 963 would win the Drivers' Championship, with Laurens Vanthoor, Kevin Estre, and Andre Lauderer celebrating a well-deserved victory. So at the end of 2024, here is the analytics for Porsche's time in the WEC and IMSA this season. For the World Endurance Championship, Porsche would lose out on winning the biggest event of the year, the 24 Hours of Le Mans, but they would take 3 overall wins in Hypercar, 11 overall podiums, 6 wins in the Hypercar World Cup, and 4 wins in LMGT3. Meanwhile, they would win the Hypercar Drivers' Championship with the number 6 car, as I explained earlier, and they would finish second in the Manufacturers' Championship. But Porsche would win the Hypercar World Cup title and the LMGT3 title. In IMSA, Porsche would take victory at the biggest event of the year, the Rolex 24 at Daytona, and they would take 4 overall wins and 13 overall podiums in GTP, which also included 3 victories in GTD Pro, all courtesy of AO Racing, and 1 single win in GTD. For the championships, Porsche would have a clean sweep in GTP and GTD Pro, as they would win the drivers, teams, and manufacturers titles in GTP, and both championships in GTD Pro thanks to AO Racing's Rexy car, where in GTD, Porsche will lose out on the titles to Mercedes, with a best finish with the number 120 Wright Porsche of 8th in the standings, and they would finish 4th in the manufacturers battle. Now, before I conclude this video, I also want to point out that Porsche not only took success in the World Endurance Championship and in the IMSA WeatherTech Series in 2024, as the German marque also had a very successful GT racing season. Among many achievements by them, one example of their success was when Porsche won the 2024 Bathurst 12-hour event at the start of the year, with Manthey EMA beating the entries from the likes of BMW, Mercedes, Audi, and so on with their number 912 Porsche, with drivers Aynachan Guven, Matt Campbell, and Laurens Vanthoor taking the win. And another example of successful results across the year was when the German manufacturer also won the Asian Le Mans Series GT Championship, with the number 91 Pure Racing car doing enough to win the title. And it wasn't just in sports car endurance racing where Porsche had a successful year of competition, because the German marque also secured the Drivers' Championship title in the most recent season of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship, with German racer Pascal Wehrlein winning his first ever Formula E title. So the facts are clear, Porsche truly dominated in 2024, especially across their WEC and IMSA programs, which included multiple championships with their 963 LMDH programs and GT racing programs. So what did you think about Porsche's season in 2024? And could they continue to be successful heading into the 2025 season of sports car endurance racing? Well, as always, let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like sports car endurance racing, this might be the channel for you. I'm making content on the WEC, IMSA, and so on every single week. In fact, there are some videos out on your screen all about these topics. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.